You are listening to the Music Ed Mentor podcast, where we help music educators like you build, manage, and grow thriving school music programs and have long and happy careers. I am your host, Elisa Jansen-Jones, and today's episode is a recap of a webinar I hosted this last week that wasn't really a webinar at all. Not a lesson, not a lecture, not a panel discussion. We hosted it as a work session. We had more than 400 music educators register, and I brought on my friend and colleague, Jessica Peresta, to help us walk through exactly how to plan for next school year, no matter what the situation looks like. We start the experience by addressing one of the biggest concerns expressed by music educators today, and that is how to connect, reconnect, and renew relationships with students that they may not have seen for months. That is where we start. I recognize that one of the biggest struggles right now is dealing with this anxiety and fear around what next school year might look like. Will you have to implement social distancing in your classroom? Will you be able to play instruments or sing? Will your students have to wear masks? Will you be entirely online or a hybrid? Will you have your students every day or just once a week? Will things be back to normal, but hopefully a lot cleaner? The key to feeling secure is having a secure plan. Or, as you've probably heard, failing to plan is planning to fail. And we thought it would be easier to plan if we could do it all together. It is my belief that by having a plan to submit to your admin, you are demonstrating initiative, which can be a great tool for advocating for your music program and your students. Show your admin exactly how prepared you are to comply with whatever mandates you are given to support the music education of your students. Because, as you know, everything we do should be student-centered. This episode is significantly longer than our traditional episodes, but it is absolutely worth listening to the entire thing. So take your time. Come back to it if you need to, and be prepared to take notes. I also have downloaded and made available to you the entire chat log and the documents that we came up with in this entire webinar. It is available for you on YouTube. I've added a link to all of these resources, including the video, the chat log, and the collaborative documents in the show notes, which you can find at smartmusic.com/blog and search for episode 74. A big thanks to Smart Music for supporting this podcast. We couldn't make it happen without them. They are hands down the best tool for online music teaching. If you haven't tried out Smart Music yet, especially if you are a band, orchestra, or secondary choir teacher, I highly recommend that you do. You will be blown away with the resources that they have available for you and your students. It will help encourage them to practice and make it easy for you to assess their progress. Also, before we jump in, I want to personally invite you to join me for the International Music Education Summit happening June 11th through 13th. I know that you have been watching a lot of online training videos and webinars, including the one I'm giving you to watch today. This is not like any of the others that you've probably watched. It's not like any other online conference. The International Music Education Summit was built to be online. It's the original professional development online conference. It's also a truly international event intended for K-12 music educators, regardless of your particular teaching assignment. So there's something for everybody. And our presenters and attendees are based in 6 continents around the world. It's been called the biggest party for music educators online, and that is the goal. Camaraderie, networking, support, and your professional education done right and entirely, comfortably online. Learn more at musiceducationsummit.org/registration. And because you're my special podcast listener, use code PODCAST to save 20% on your registration now through June 11th. Without further ado, here is our collaborative work session audio with Jessica Peresta, where we will cover contingency plans for every situation you might be faced with next year, so you can go into it with ultimate confidence. We're super, super happy to have everybody here with us and joining in, and we're going to have more people coming and going as we do this work session. So we kind of initiated this because we want to help facilitate planning for you so that you can go into next school year no matter what it's going to look like, and know that you can be adaptable and you are prepared and you have ideas and you have a collaborative body of people to work with and support you. So that's kind of what we're into. I'm going to change where we're showing up here. Wait. Yeah. I love that feature. Okay. So welcome. This is who the content's really for. And if we have lurkers, I'm totally okay with that. I'm a lurker a lot. So K-12 music educators is what we're looking at, because we're going to cover elementary, middle school, and high school for 4 different iterations of what next year might look like. You're probably frustrated not knowing how to plan for next year, or maybe you're just wanting to glean some more ideas. Maybe you want to abolish your own fear by having a plan, and I love that. That is how I completely function. When I'm feeling anxiety, I make a plan. That's just what I do. We want you to be confident moving forward, and we want to give you ways to collaborate together. Did I miss anything in who this is for, Jessica?
No, that looks good.
Cool. So who are we? This was a question. Are we music teachers? Yes. So, and hopefully you are all as well. It's wonderful to see you. So my bachelor's degree is in music education. My name's Elisa. I didn't put our names on the slide. I'm Elisa Jansen-Jones. I'm the host of the Music Ed Mentor podcast. I write the Music Ed Mentor blog. I'm a columnist for SBO Magazine. I've spent the bulk of my career teaching K-8, elementary and middle school band, orchestra, and choir. So the only thing I haven't taught is high school. And I do conduct my community band, though. So my students have been everywhere from ages 5 to ages 85. And so that's a little bit about me. I also have a master's degree in business administration. And that's where a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing comes from, is this business background. So I'm also the founder of the society, one of the co-founders of the Society for Online Music Education, which is a new organization to help support the teaching and learning of music online. It's a membership-based community, but we don't charge for membership or anything like that. We just are there to collaborate and provide resources, and this is a great example of that. I'm also the founder of the International Music Education Summit, which is a 3-day online professional development experience. Jessica's one of my presenters who's been with me from the start. You've presented all 3 years now. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, and I'm also working on a doctorate in education and instructional design, which is online learning. So I'm a music teacher. I'm a community band director. I have an MBA in business, and I'm an instructional design online learning specialist. And I'm also the founder of the Music Educators Creating Online Learning Facebook group. So if you've ever wondered how that got started, that was me. You're welcome. I love you. Yeah. All right, Jessica, quick introduction, because I know we want to get hopping in this content.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jessica Peresta, and I'm the founder of the domesticmusician.com. And my story really quickly is I started my career after graduating college with a music education degree at a school that hadn't had a music program for 7 years, started it from scratch, built it from the bottom up. So I literally know what it's like to have no resources, nothing to work with. So for 4 years now, I've owned my own online business, helping teachers. I have my own membership site to help elementary music teachers with curriculum and planning and work-home life balance and all that kind of stuff. I also have the host of the Elementary Music Teacher podcast. I have a weekly blog. I also do several guest posts for other like music education sites and things like that as well, and love to come on and collaborate and present and teach anywhere I can and help music teachers as much as I can. So
yeah. I think the big takeaway from who we are is that we have experience in planning and online learning, and we want to help you. We're not here to sell a product. We're not from a big organization. We have only the authority that we have been experienced in the classroom, and we feel we had the infrastructure to be able to do this because this is my webinar system. So I just started the poll. Thank you all so much for hopping on that poll. We just want to see, and we want you to be able to see who is in the room with you. So here's where we are. About 50, a little more than 50% are elementary. I kind of anticipated that because there's more elementary music teachers in general. And then some middle school, some high school, and some combination. I'm a combination. Woo! Okay, let's move on. Joelle asked, do you provide this out of the goodness of your own musical hearts for free? Yes. Yes, that is exactly what we are doing. It's out of the goodness of our, I saw a need and I called up Jessica and I said, look, you are the planning expert. Let's make this thing happen because there's a need in our community. Yeah. All right. So let's move on because we do want to get into the content. As you can see, I already did ask what grade levels you teach. I want to know what content level you teach. Do you teach general music? And this is just helping us and helping you see who you're going to be collaborating with tonight. General music is winning. General music, vocal music, instrumental. Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. I know right now it's like we all teach general music. I haven't taught choir in months, right? Yep. Oh, you can look at that sweet gray streak in my hair, you guys. Okay, sorry. Told you we're being real tonight. Okay, so here's who you are with in the room. We're mostly elementary general music, some vocal, instrumental, awesome. And then we've got lots of answers happening in the chat too. Jennifer Evans, you're amazing. Thank you. She says, I've enjoyed getting to know you, Elisa, through all of this COVID. I love you guys, and I am so happy to know all of you as well. So, yeah. All right, one more poll, and this is to help us drive the content that we walk you through. We're wondering if your state has already given you guidelines or not. Yeah. Because if you don't have guidelines, it's like you already have guidelines, then you're set in my mind. You can felt like Noah would win for sure. Because I know a lot of teachers have told me they won't find out till the end of June or July, or maybe even later. I had no idea. Which is mind blowing to me because for planning, which we're going to talk about tonight, but. Yeah. I literally just got chills that 98% of us have no idea. Yep. Okay. That's where I was figuring. There were our polls. Here's our goals. Nashira is asking, will there be a recording of this? Yes. And it will come to you direct in your email. So if you need to go make dinner, you want to come back, we're going to be at this for a little bit. Why don't you take us through the goals, Jessica? And I'm going to put up our planning document, our collaborative planning document. Okay. So our goals for today, strategies for continued online learning, should they be necessary, because we'll talk about that tonight, but or today, wherever you're joining us from. But there's going to be different ways your teaching come fall, and you may not know what those are yet. Ideas for how to adapt lessons to comply with social distancing measures, curriculum map for the school year, one for each possible scenario you may find yourself in, and then tapping into each other's ideas. Stay active in the chat. We've already seen a lot of you through email and answering some of Elisa's her Facebook Live, and the question, why can't I say that? The comments the other day, sharing ideas already. And that's incredible. And that's the way to grow as a teacher, is just to share ideas and glean, ideas from each other. So we'll do that today. All right. So stay active in the chat. We have some more questions. Danielle is asking, will the chat be included in the video? Guess what? That's on a future slide. We're almost there. So bear with me here. Quick things. We are going to look at a couple of the CDC guidelines before we jump into our really collaborative planning. And that's just so that we have some guidance on these different scenarios from the CDC. And we're going to go through each scenario and we're going to share and collect ideas. We've set up this form at the top of your chat window that's available for collecting ideas. And then at the end of this, I will download all of that and make it available to you. So you're going to see different blocks in that form. So what I recommend is that you have the webinar open in one screen and that form open in the other. And that way you can type your own ideas in and we'll share all of these ideas with each other. So ideally an hour or however long we're going with this from now, you're going to walk away with a wealth of ideas, and you don't have to take all of the notes. You should take your notes into that collaborative form. All right. This is not going to be exhaustive, you guys. It's impossible. We are trusting you as the wise, omnipotent music teachers that you are. You're going to generate ideas here. We are just going to be your guides, and we're really counting on you to help each other out. There's no way we can be totally exhaustive. That's why I've created this online form. You can fill it out as many times as you need to. I think I'm going to check the settings, but there we are. So yes, it will be recorded. Yes, you will get an email with that. And yes, included in that email, I will also have it's going to be a Google spreadsheet that will have all of your collaborative ideas. So again, webinar one screen, that form link at the top on the other. We will send it to you, but you can still take notes and you may add your notes in the form. Okay, let's have some fun. I just want to look at this for a second. Don't worry, it's just blackberry mint. It's delicious. Okay. Here we go. These are the guidelines from the CDC. And you're going to hear me talk a lot at first, and then Jessica's going to take over for the bulk. So they basically have this plotted out that this is guidelines for schools to decide if they're going to be opening. Okay. And you can take a screenshot of this. You can take a picture of it with your phone. I just found it on the internet. I just looked for CDC guidelines. So that kind of takes us through the different potential scenarios that we're looking at. So it could be that your school is open. It could be that it's not. That is for you to look at. That's how we kind of guided this. So looking through the comments on my Facebook Live and looking through your poll answers, for those of you, thank you. We had so many amazing responses to that confirmation page poll. So the first thing that we need to talk about is how to build community and engage your students. We're so used to having our physical classroom space that we can set up, and that gives us a lot of control in the experience that we have with our students. We can control what they see, we can control what they smell, we can control what they hear, and now we don't have control over that. So we need to establish the areas where we do have control. And Daphne, thank you for being on the back end. You guys are gonna see Daphne on there. She's my amazing, wonderful, talented assistant. So she's gonna be marking your questions as questions. And when we have a chance to pause, we'll go through and answer some of those. That's how questions will work, all right? I'm gonna share some ideas. I wanna see some ideas from you in the chat. Maria, the form is at the top. It should be highlighted, collaborative document contribution. And then you just click the link. Daphne, if you don't mind dropping that in the chat, and I'll do so as well. Okay, so here's some ideas on building community. And again, this was the number one thing that you guys said you wanted to know about. Number one is to have clear communication. And I've heard a lot of complaints like students aren't following instructions, and that's true. They're not going to. So what you've got to do though is your due diligence to make sure that your communication is perfect for that age group. So if you are writing instructions for younger grades, you might consider doing something more visual instead. What do you think, Jessica, on communication?
That's a great idea. I mean, honestly, when you're in your classroom, and we're talking about the very beginning of the school year, when you're presenting procedures and going over classroom management, especially with the really littles, a lot of times they're not going to sit still anyways to pay attention. So I think visuals is a great idea.
Yeah. And I think through every type of media that you can do, you can write it, you can have it in a picture form, you can do it in a video, you can send it in an email, you can do it in a book. I mean, there's so many different ways to share that information, and every student's going to attach to something different, right? So you might consider giving your instructions in a document and in a video and in an MP4 that they can just listen to.
Yeah.
So be thorough, repeat instructions often. I am super guilty of that. I usually try and say everything that I mean in 2 separate ways so that they really understand what I'm saying. Tell them and then show them and then invite them to try. So tell, show, and try. And, oh, sorry, option 1 instead, fill in the blank choice. Thanks, Mike. He's giving me some tips on how to fix the form. Threw it together just for you guys. I'll go ahead and fix that. Be human and be kind, you guys, with everybody. That is going to help establish your rapport with students, that even students who are new to your class, if you are just the kindest, sweetest, openest person, they are just going to flock to you, and that is going to build your rapport extremely quickly. The other thing is to have your classroom culture, even if your classroom culture is online. And that means having your policies and procedures in place. And this is something that Jessica and I have both taught many classes on, I know. So have a way that they come into the classroom. When they come in, what is it that they see and what can they expect? And then replicate that over and over again. So maintain and set your expectations, reinforce them frequently. And the more you do that, the more your students are going to feel secure, and that's going to help them engage. Because sometimes if they're not engaging, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bored or that the content isn't great. It might just be that they're uncomfortable, and we just need to give them many, many ways. And I feel like you guys probably already know this. So how can you provide classroom culture for them? All right, I'm going to read a few in the chat. GIA had a webinar earlier today on mindfulness and SEL, and they addressed this exactly. And Jessica's going to talk about that too, about SEL. My district looking at using Seesaw for grade 5. Yes, definitely. We need to be able to access our students directly. Right now, I can only communicate with students through grade level teachers. And that is a big challenge, to have to communicate through grade level teachers and wait on other people. But if that's I look at it when I'm given a mandate, that's my opportunity to have a creative solution, right? So if you can't communicate with your students directly, but you do have that route, how do you leverage that? How do you make your communications even more powerful so that they stand out, right? SEL, how do we incorporate this? I'm so glad that you asked. There's some amazing resources out there. And for those of you who don't know SEL, it's social emotional learning. I have a great podcast episode, the Music Ed Mentor podcast. I'll see if I can find that and drop it in the chat for you guys, where I bring on Dr. Scott Edgar and we cover it beginning to end, how to implement. I share some of the ideas that I've done in my elementary music classroom and he approved of, and I didn't even know that it was SEL, you guys. The other thing is coming up in a couple of weeks is the International Music Education Summit. And we have like 5 or 6 sessions on SEL. So you could almost do 3 straight days of highly interactive, idea-driven, relevant SEL, social emotional learning stuff. And maybe that's where you need to focus. And Jessica, you had something on that as well.
On SEL? Yeah. So what I was going to say is I talked to you a little bit about this today, Elisa, was I feel like teachers need to realize, okay, so I have the parent side of things too. I have 3 little boys. They're going to be 5th grader, 3rd grader, and kindergartner. And on the parent side of things, it's overwhelming. I'm just going to keep it real with you. And so because the music educator in me can't not do music with my kids. But on the flip side of that, I've even seen my own children worn out, exhausted, I want to go back to school. I miss my friends. I miss my teachers. So in the fall, SEL, keep it as simple as you can. Yes, there's so many songs off the top of my head. I can't think of them right now, of course, but there's a lot
of them are from Sesame Street.
Yes,
Sesame Street had a lot of good songs about your emotions.
Yep.
exploring your
Yeah.
emotions.
So it's just about exploring emotions, and kids are going to just want you to be there for them. And I'm seeing a lot of you in the comments saying, well, I don't have a way to see my kids, or some of the teachers are letting me in their classrooms and some are not. So I realize that's overwhelming. But students are just going to want you there for them right now. They're going to just be excited if you show up at all. I've told teachers I work with, like, show up for one student the same way you would for 25, because that one kid is showing up for you and wants to hear from you and connect with you. So how do you incorporate SEL? Just as long as it's at the front of your mind and you remember it's important, and to just address the feelings your students have been feeling in these past few months. Some of them, if you think about it, counting the summer months too, will be out of school for 6 months at that point, and maybe not even returning to a school building. But they're just needing you to address the feelings. Like, hey guys, maybe you're not seeing them. We'll get into that, but like face to face, but maybe just you're doing some kind of newsletter that you're sending to the teacher to post in their Google Classroom. And you're in there saying, hey, let's be mindful of this, or let's remember to be kind, or let's remember to address our feelings, or you might be feeling this way. Here's some music that can help you. Just simple, keep it simple. Just as long as you're mentioning it to your kiddos and they are having those conversations with you and know that you're available is what's important. And music in general helps kids with their emotions anyways, no matter what it is. Just,
yeah. If you can just get your face on the screen, and I know that for some of us that's not possible, maybe what that ends up looking like. So for those of you who can't have direct live video with your students, maybe you can record a video message and send it out. I do that all the time because I found that typing instructions just takes too long and I need to be more efficient. So I use Loom extension for Chrome. So I can just click it and make a video and do a little training. Even if I just wanted to send Jessica a message, I could click Loom, turn video on and say, hey, Jessica, it's Elisa. I just want to check in with you today and make sure that you're doing okay. I know that you had a rough week last week. Yeah. And then Loom turns that into a URL that you can just send out. So let's hit some of these questions. And meanwhile, while I'm answering questions, I would love it if you all would share your best ideas for how to communicate with students. So in the chat, share what are some tips that you have for each other for communicating with students. Tanya is wondering about engaging with new students. I think the sooner you can get in front of them with a little video message, the better. And it can be that simple. I know that your school is probably sending out, upcoming information and newsletters. You could create a Loom video like I was just talking about, and then it becomes a URL, and you just say, can you send this out in the URL, or add this URL to my little blurb in the newsletter, and then your students can click on that, and there you are going, hi everybody, I'm Mrs. Jones, and I'm going to be your music teacher, and I can't wait to see you. I would love to hear your favorite song. What is your favorite song? You'll find my email address, and maybe your parents need to help you. You find my email address in the newsletter, and I would love it if you'd send me an email with your favorite song. Something just that simple is going to immediately build that connection with those students.
Yes.
All right. Do you see one you'd like to respond to as well?
I also wanted to mention there's an app called Bonjoro. Now, I don't know the spelling off the top of my head. Let me look at it before I spell it wrong. But I use this all the time just for communicating with teachers one-on-one, or sending. It's just the same thing. You can send individual messages. I'm pretty sure it's Bonjouro. I might be wrong, but it's an app you can just download from your phone. It's free, and you just record yourself speaking, and you just plug an email address in and send it, or download it and just send it in bulk. But yeah, so so beginning of the school year, I'm seeing this asked a lot. How do I communicate with kids that I've never even met, new students that you've never met? So you're used to, whether you teach elementary, middle, or high school, being in your physical classroom, seeing kids face to face, going over procedures, welcome songs, greeting, here's what we do with our instruments, here's where to put your hands, how to come in the classroom, all that stuff. The thing is you can still do all that online. It depends on where you teach, and we're going to get into all the different scenarios, which is the next slide. But so I don't want to get into it too much right now, because I will as we get going. But whether it is a newsletter, maybe some of you were like, well, I don't even have my own Google Classroom. That's okay. Here's my newsletter. Email it to every teacher in your school, And it could be a weekly one just to keep kids updated with a new song, a new activity to do at home, who you are. Here's what I expect when we do have a Google Classroom call or a Zoom call or whatever you're using, Canvas or whatever. Here's my expectations for you. When you do have students come, you still go over procedures and expectations with them. Get to know you activities, icebreakers, do a welcome song with them. Even if you're not seeing them in person, it's just a paper packet. Everything you'd be doing at school, you transfer it to online teaching, whatever that looks like for you, which we're going to go through all the different scenarios here.
And another thing that I would love to use, and I'm actually going to use it on an upcoming podcast, there's an audio recorder called, oh shoot, it's so out of my head. Anyway, the point is, it creates a page for you, and all the student has to do is click on like the microphone, and they can record a message for you. And if you can get them so you just send out the link and say, I would love to hear your favorite song. You can do it. It's called Speak Pipe, I want to say.
I've heard of it. I can't remember either, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so then they can get on there and like send you a message and go, hi, Miss Jones, my favorite song is Beyond the Apple Tree or whatever. I don't even know if that's a real song, you guys. If there's a real song called Beyond the Apple Tree, everybody's getting a free copy of my book. All right. You can still share or embed video out of Google Drive. I don't know if you guys know that. It's one of my favorite tools is you can embed videos that you have hosted. Let's see. My kids have been pooping in classroom. Oh, popping into classroom meetings. Sorry. I would not be an appropriate elementary teacher if I did not throw in the occasional poop joke. She's been doing trivia. It's fun for everyone. Yes, trivia is great stuff. Maria says, I've created videos with songs where I have them play along with me and sing along with me. Exactly. I mean, I'm in my 40s, you guys, and sing along with Elmo, or maybe not Elmo. I'm too old for Elmo, but Sesame Street stuff. Like that is what kids love. Little Einsteins, Zoom meetings, Zoom meetings on our own or show up in classroom. Yep. Or be on Flipgrid. That's awesome. If you can get them to interact with you and share what they love, think about how kids love that. Jane is asking, what is Loom? Is it like Zoom? It's a screen and what is that camera called? The camera that's showing me right now, webcam.
Webcam. Oh, that's what I was going to say, but I'm like, surely that's not what she's asking.
I am missing my nap right now. That is how much I love you all. I only sleep 4 hours a night, and this is normally mommy's nap time. So Loom is not like Zoom. You don't have to download any software. It's embedded in Chrome, so it shows up on the top of your Chrome browser, and you just click it. And you know what? Why don't I do a demonstration in the Facebook group? So if you're not already in the Music Educators Creating Online Learning, I will do a live stream with some of my favorite tools, like my go-to tools. Would that be helpful for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, and info about all the apps you're mentioning. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, and there are some that are definitely my go-to. Loom is one. I use a screen capture one called Snagit. It's a paid thing, but it's only $30. And that is one that you do download. And it allows you to screen capture, to do panoramic captures, and it can let you do screen video captures. And then what's cool about it is it just opens it right into an editor. So let's say that you wanted to share the results of something, but you don't want the student's name on it. So you take a screen grab of it, and then it pops that open right into the editor, and you blur out the kid's name. Awesome. Okay, but Loom is not like Zoom. Like I said, it's embedded in Chrome, and it produces your video so that you can download it, or you can share it as a link. All right. Maybe I'll make you guys.
My computer's going to die. I'll be right back.
Sure. I should make you guys a Loom and send it. Let's see. Emmy says, who do you send the URL to? Student emails? Ask whoever's in charge of communications at your school. Your safest bet is just to have it added in to your school newsletter. Michelle says messages into their assignments, email communications, stuff like that. Karen says the principal sends out email with link to music website. Awesome. From there, we have videos and activities. We connect with kids through Zoom and Google Classroom and Google Meet. That's amazing. And then, yeah, Carrie says Loom is a screencast kind of thing. Joelle says a cross-curricular encore matrix. Woo, I love that. I just got like chills reading Encore Matrix. What a nerd I am, you guys. Jane is wondering how to make lyric videos of our songs. That is a really good question because I don't know. How I would do it is I would create a PowerPoint. In fact, this is how I've done it before. You create a PowerPoint and you manipulate the text using the animations feature. Okay. And then you do a screen capture, which you can use Zoom for. I've been using Zoom for like 7 years. I was an early adopter for Zoom and I used it for all of my early screen recordings. So you just do a screen share, you make sure you're recording on Zoom. And then as the music plays and you're recording computer sound as well, then you just go through your slides with the music. That's how I would do it. It's free, it's easy. Win-win. I love free and easy.
Yeah.
So that was Jane's. Carrie says you can create videos of your computer screen. Exactly. Thank you. You guys are amazing. So we want to move on ahead, grab all of these great ideas. Michelle's saying Vukaroo, Flipgrid. You guys are trying to help me out. It was SpeakPipe. Karen says there is a book called Secrets of the Apple Tree. Oh, but is it a song? I think you guys should get a copy of my book, don't you? All right. Screencastify also works well. Yeah, I use Camtasia. Quite honestly, it's a little more robust than most of you are going to use. But I made a video of myself playing ukulele and then singing harmony with myself. And it took me about an hour. And I used Soundtrap for the audio and then Camtasia for all the video editing. It's so freaking easy. Mary says lyric with a bouncing ball you can create in Flipgrid. Katie Wardrobe has the information. We love Katie Wardrobe. Huge fan, been on her podcast. She's been on mine. She's presented at the International Music Education Conference. Okay. Whew, that was like, everybody take a deep breath. Hand out. Hand in. Okay. So that was all the SEL and communication section. Wonderful, wonderful ideas, you guys. Let's move on. So these are, I went too fast. These are the 4 scenarios that we're looking at this school year, and we're going to go through each one. So keep sharing your ideas, use that collaborative document. And again, we're going to send that out to everybody. So you'll all have each other's ideas. Okay. And all in one place. You don't have to search for them. You're welcome. I love you. Okay. Entirely in person is the first option. So just like the beginning of last school year, basically entirely in person, minimal things. Maybe you sanitize extra. That's one option. The next option is entirely in person, but with mandates about spacing. Maybe you can't. I know I just read a guideline from Texas that said that teachers that classes need to be as homogenous as possible, in which case as a middle school teacher, you would have to figure out how to go around and teach music in each of those classrooms. You would be the one moving around because they don't want kids in the hallways. So I even saw one it made me so sad. I'm sorry. Okay. So it was an elementary school in like the Netherlands or something. And so they would send the kids out to recess, but each student had a chalk smiley face to stand on that were spaced 6 feet apart. And that was recess. Go stand on your smiley face. And I was like, okay. I have a heart sometimes. Okay. So we're going to talk about some online and some in person. So what this might look like is your younger grades are in person, but your older grades are more online because they are more susceptible to the viral infection. And then we have, of course, continuing entirely online. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jessica. I'm going to continue marking these chats as questions that are. And why don't you take us through our first scenario?
Yeah. Okay. So scenario number 1, school opens with no significant change from last year. All right. So elementary music teachers, where are you at? Say me in the comments, or that's me, or elementary music teacher here. I saw in the poll, there is a lot of you here tonight. So let's talk about, this is something I have talked about several times. So I'm going to present some ideas that I have. I have notes galore over here on my other computer, and I want to hear from you guys in the comments as well and share with things. Or if something I say, hello, it's been a long day, sparks an idea on you, then I would love for you to tell me in the comments or ask questions around it if something I'm saying doesn't make sense, okay? Because our whole goal here is for you to go back to school in the fall. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Go back to school in the fall feeling maybe not 100% prepared, but a little less overwhelmed. I actually had a podcast interview. You guys, I'm going to get it together. Had a solo podcast episode come out today on my podcast, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast, all about what I'm going to talk about tonight, but I'm going to go into way more detail on this webinar as well. Okay, so school opens with no significant change from last year. What are some units that you could teach? I want to hear from you in the comments and see what are some ideas that you have already kind of come up with for, let's say everything goes back to, normal. I don't know if there's another word I can use here, but everything goes back to what it used to be. Okay, like you walk in your classroom, every student's there, you have your normal routine again, your normal schedule, you have classes coming to you back to back, you're back to having no restroom breaks, right? Okay, you have to scarf your lunch down, all that good stuff. Things you probably even miss at this point, the normalcy. So for me, honestly, this is the easiest one, right? Because I'm just going to kind of read the notes I have here. Anything you've been doing in the past. So movement, elementary music teachers, instruments, if you're allowed to use them. So this is no significant change. So that means you can use instruments. You may need a Lysol wipe them down a little bit after use, but you still are going to be able to use them. Body percussion, speech pieces, singing, rhythm writing, teaching melody, anything else that goes into an elementary music classroom. Those of you that teach elementary music, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so you can also plan performances like you always have. Programs, they're just as normal. There's no significant change where your kids are not having to stand 6 feet apart. You're not having to space them out. You're not having to do extra performances because too many kids can't be in a room at a time, or parents for that matter. So look at resources you already have to plan programs. I'm not going to get into program planning tonight, but if you ever have questions, please ask me, Jessica@thedomesticmusician.com. But look at resources you already have.
Those too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Resources you already have are like the best way to plan programs, in my opinion. You just pull songs you've already taught the kids and you create a program around it. But Music K8, in my opinion, is super, super great for programs too. And
Hal Leonard has one as well that's very similar. There, and you guys will have to help me out in the chat because my recall with proper nouns is awful right now. But it's like their essential elementary. I'll try and find it, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Go on.
Okay, so I just realized I just sort of went into question 2 without even realizing it. Okay, so I don't want to railroad myself over question number 1. What are some units you can teach? Well, what you've already been teaching. What you already taught before quarantine school happened is what you just go back and you start teaching. If you find yourself in this scenario, which I don't feel like very many of you will, but we're going to cover this situation anyways, right? What are performances you want to plan for? Well, you plan your performances just like you always have. Are you going to have a winter concert? Are you going to do a fall one? Are you going to do something in the spring? I know for me personally, I like to schedule the lower elementary for later in the school year just because of time you have with them and everything, because they're kind of newish. And
maybe to mitigate the risk of a future closure or missing the performance, you do a video performance. So you record your students' performance while you have them there. And then you have that kind of in your back pocket in case, there's a resurgence or they close down the school or whatever. Then you're not stuck with no performance. And then you can put those videos all together in a neat little collage and you've got your performance.
Yeah. Well, Elisa, you and I kind of ran into that, didn't we? The World Choir Festival happened and it was in April and I helped co-direct it. And that was the problem is they, choir directors, some of you in here may have attended and you weren't seeing your choir. So you're like, how am I supposed to record these kids? So that is a great idea to record your performances if you can this year anyways, or in future years. So you have something in case you need it.
Yeah, and at the very least, it's a great assessment opportunity for your students to see themselves performing, and then to look at how they could maybe do it better next time, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, like a post-evaluation type of situation.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So lots of great ideas. Remember to enter them into that collaborative document form as well. Should we move on to scenario number 2?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
How can you start the year by reestablishing student connection and rapport? Okay, so this is, like Elisa said at the beginning, one of the biggest questions we've gotten is, how can I still connect with my kids when I'm not seeing them? I want to know in the comments real quick, have you been doing paper packets? I know you answered that in the poll, but for me, I want to see in the comments too, if that's okay with you guys. But paper packets, have you just been teaching virtually? Have you had your own Google Class calls or Zoom calls? Have you been showing up to the classroom teachers' calls? Have you had like a combo platter of all of the above? I would love to hear about that. Because what I'm gonna give some things that I suggest here. And so with reestablishing student connection and rapport, we talked about it at the beginning of this webinar. I talked about you could send home a virtual, not home, well, I guess it is going home, a virtual newsletter. So if you don't have your own Google Classroom, and I've talked to a lot of music teachers who I've encouraged to, it's hard to have your own because there's not going to be as many kids coming to yours. Let's just be honest. It's not to offend anybody. I'm just being honest with you. So if you could at any point in time join a regular classroom teacher's call and maybe try to show up to as many of those as you can, just to make yourself available. And even if you're in the comments like me and Elisa have been doing, and answering questions and commenting and asking questions, and tell me what you had for dinner last night. What is your favorite, what's your pet's name? And, ask
dinner?
Yeah, I know. What's that? Ask them questions in the comments. Just keep your conversations going with your kiddos like you did. Elementary kids love to tell you stories, you guys, right? It's like nonstop. So, okay, so chat in the comments on Zoom calls or in Google Classroom. Hop into different Google Classrooms and just leave comments in there and say, hey, this is your music teacher showing up. I want to ask you about this, or look at this really cool performance I saw that you could watch, or tell me what kind of music you've been listening to. Just engage like that as well.
I found too that classroom teachers that I've worked with are so welcome to music material. It gives them a break. It lets them have a more robust set of content for their students. So see it as you're doing them a little bit of a favor as well.
Yes, exactly. They're just exhausted too, you guys. They would love, and some of you already saw in the comments saying some teachers let you come to their call. I don't want to say that, but like, sure, come on, let's go. Let's come with me to my class call. And some of them are like, meh. And isn't that the way it is in the school building though? There's some teachers who are so supportive of music and so on board with what you're doing. And you got some of them that are like, it's plan time, right? And that's probably the same teachers, let's be honest, that are doing that online, if you think about it. Okay. Let's see. A couple more things on that. And then I took a lot of notes for elementary, obviously. But welcome songs, name games, class discussion, first or last 5 minutes of class. You can still do all that. So yeah, we'll talk more about that when we get into the virtual teaching part.
Cool. So let's talk about middle school. It's going to be very much the same, you guys. Just plan on lots of extra cleaning. What are the performances that you want to plan for? Have those planned out. And like we said already, be sure to record them if you can, if not for your own personal assessment and posterity. And there was a question about recording them. Now, I've looked into this significantly because I do this stuff. Okay. So here's kind of my understanding, and I am not a lawyer. I cannot be held liable for this information. You are under your own liable to figure it all out. But my understanding is for K-12, one-time performance use, you are under an educational license. Now, if you decide to retain that and make it a public viewing recording, then you're going to want to try and get the synchronization rights for that. Usually we're on the middle school, high school kind of area. So usually what I've paid for synchronization rights are anywhere from free to about $50 per song. So that means if you want to have an entire three or four or 5 piece video that you have on YouTube, usually the publisher will tell you this is good for up to 6 months or 500,000 views, whichever comes first. And that gives you a nice, good buffer time. Now, that being said, if you do the one-time stream, you're still that's considered a performance, right? You don't have to get licensing for all of your live performances. It's only if you retain or sell or copy. So if somebody else wants to correct me on that in the chat, that's totally fine. I do have a great podcast episode on that where I interview the wonderful Steve Martin from GPG Music Publishing, and we kind of give a guide. He's also doing a session at the International Music Education Summit that will go more in depth. As is, we have 2 of them on copyright. I'm sorry. You guys are getting authentic Elisa right now. All right, lots of paper packet ideas. Yeah, and maybe you should be prepared for that too. Okay, so middle school, I'm just gonna say it's very much the same. The thing that you're gonna have to remember is establishing those expectations right from the beginning and continually reinforcing those policies and procedures. That's going to help them feel super duper duper secure. Remember with students, and you guys probably don't need to hear this, I'm sure you know, don't lose your temper, stay positive as much as possible. Listen if they're talking to you and they're like, you know, they maybe just need a voice or an ear to listen to them if they've been in a household that, you know, they haven't been listened to a whole lot. So be prepared to nurture those social and emotional needs. And maybe your first concert that you do is something about the heart, or something about love, or something about emotions. So keeping your programming really, really uplifting and positive could be extremely helpful. And that kind of rolls into high school as well. So, and this comes from, I cannot take credit for this idea. This is from a marching band workshop that I watched pretty recently. Con Selmer is putting on a marching band workshop June 10th and 11th, I want to say. It's a Wednesday, Thursday. It's kind of in line with their Con Selmer Institute Connect, which is all online this year as well. And they, in that marching band one, will talk about programming for your bands for this year and keeping it really uplifting and positive and stuff like that. So what are some other ideas for high schools, you guys? We're down to high school if everything's going to kind of go back to a pseudo normal. You might be struggling. I know my kids are in marching band right now, and Jeanette's asking the marching band webinar. It's actually a 2-day thing that Con Selmer puts on. It's called the Con Selmer Marching Arts Workshop, and it's going to be fabulous. So you should definitely, if you're a marching band director, hands down, you should go to it. You're gonna have Richard Saucedo and Nola Jones and Randy Greenwell and Lindsay Vento. It's fabulous. So marching band people, go to that. They're going to help you with a lot of that as well. So concert programming, again, same thing. Record your concerts. Make sure that you can have those accessible in case you do need to stream a performance instead. And then let's everybody type in one way that you can reestablish student connection. So maybe you weren't allowed to Zoom with them. Maybe you can do some opening activities with them, like where they have to wear a thing on their forehead and then they have to go around and ask questions to each other, right? Just to open up that discussion. Or what if they have to go around and get signatures for people who have these things in common with them, like both of you are the same number in the order of your family, or find somebody who's an only child. Tons of activities like that. Actually, I think I have a blog post about opening year activities. Maybe I'll see if I can find that and share it with you guys as well. Andrea, I hope I said your name right. Andrea, she says, teach the high school kids, learn the virtual choir tech. Imagine how much they can help in the future. You guys, I cannot stress this enough, that I know we have poo-pooed significantly the virtual choir, virtual band thing, but they learn legitimate musical skills by doing those projects. And maybe you have to change what your assessment framework is. Maybe instead of student will perform with good tone, you include student will perform with good tone, but also student will know how to properly set up their camera for optimal recording. Student will know how to work Soundtrap or an online DAW. Sorry, a DAW is a digital audio workstation, okay? Student will be able to place their microphone in an appropriate spot to capture their highest quality sound. Those are all legitimate musical skills. I know I'm a French horn player. I have spent my time in a recording studio playing the same French horn parts over and over again into a microphone. It is a skill, and it's going to get them to practice that stuff over and over again. And you are going to have some kids who are video shy, and maybe you give them the option of audio only, right? You use SpeakPipe, that kind of thing. You can say, send in your audio, but kids these days are on video and selfies all the time. Yeah. I know. I have this many teenagers in my house. I was going to say,
you got the teenagers.
Yes, they are. Yeah. And they get to practice. Yeah. Everybody's sharing wonderful, wonderful ideas. There's also practice ideas, you guys, band bingo. If you can have them, challenge them to do different things. You can have a challenge. Like if all the band kids log using your little practice app or smart music or whatever it is you use, Music First, and you log, so many hours of practice time, then you'll do something crazy like shave your head. Fun fact, shaved my head last summer. Look at how nice it's growing in, right? So shaving your head is not a bad thing. And if it incentivizes your students to practice, or maybe you color your hair purple or whatever, okay? So fun challenges to get them to practice. All right, so hopefully that's a bunch of great ideas for you to hop into next year. Have that social connection with your students, reestablish your rapport, or establish your new rapport with new students with a lot of those interaction things that we've already talked about. So let's talk about school opening with limitations. Maybe we're on a cart having to go classroom to classroom. What does that look like? Maybe we have to stagger the students. Maybe we have classes that are every other day when we used to have them every day. Maybe class sizes are only 10 or 20 kids instead of the 30 or 40 or 80 that we're used to. Am I right? Okay. So Jessica, why don't you take us through? I'm going to answer and drop some more links in the chat while you do this section.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is for elementary school. And this is something I've already gotten a lot of questions about as well, which I know elementary music teachers is just like, thinking about this option is not what you want to think about. But I truly believe thinking about things ahead of time and processing through it emotionally, mentally, but also really planning it out will help you go into the school year feeling a little bit better and not as overwhelmed. So first thing, considering the ideas you just generated, which ones are easiest to adapt to smaller classes requiring more space? Well, all we pretty much talked about is if you have no limitations, you're just doing everything you've already done, right? So I have some notes here about things that you can easily adapt. Right now, I know the majority of elementary music teachers are thinking of the fact that you may not be able to have your students sing at all. So I want to start with that. Let me look at these other questions, make sure I might be answering like more than one at a time. Which ideas work well if you have to travel from classroom to classroom? Well, let me just ask the first question first, and I'm going to give ideas too. Ideas you have from keeping kids distance. Okay. So thinking of ideas, let's do this. Thinking of the ideas you did last year with your kids while you still saw them in person. Let's say there's limitations put on your teaching, whether it's smaller class sizes, you're only seeing half of a class here and half of a class the next day, or you're traveling to the general teachers' classrooms. What are easiest ideas you can adapt to smaller classes that require more space? Have you thought about this yet? Let's see. I want to see your comments, and then I'm going to tell you, you may not be able to have the kids sing. You may have your school or CDC guidelines may come down that say you can't use instruments at all. So thinking through this will really help you to prepare what you're going to do. Okay.
Can I hop in on an instrument thing?
Yeah.
So I did this with my elementary kids every year. They loved it, and it's perfect for this situation. So I always did an instrument unit where we would watch a video of the players doing the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
We would find like the little science video about how it vibrates, it modulates, it resonates. And then we would do, I call them take and make instruments. So for percussion, I just printed out like a picture of a snare drum, and we would crumple it up and then form it into a drum. We'd sit on the floor, but you could do this on a desk. It's a perfect activity if you're going from classroom to classroom. And then I got those wooden skewers, cut off the pointy ends. If they had the pointy ends, you must cut off the pointy ends. Okay. Which I usually have my older students do. Anyway, so then they could drum on the little formed drum paper with these little wooden sticks, and then they got to just take them. I mean, my total expense, because you can get 500 wooden skewers for $1 at Dollar Tree, was like $10 maybe to do that with all of my kindergarten through third grade students, and my middle schoolers freaking love that. Okay. Yeah. So for the Woodwind instruments, we always made straw double reeds. You just pinch the end of the straw flat, cut it in a point, and they become a sound maker. And then we could still talk about all of that great instrument stuff, and they don't have to share. They don't have to touch anything. It's completely disposable. Again, you can get 500 straws at Dollar Tree for like $2, and they can each do it. They can do it at their desk. It's super, super easy and fun. And then for strings, I just got a big box of rubber bands. I had the office order it for me. And then I went to don't tell anybody this, but I went to the teacher's lounge and found all of those plastic cups from all of those parent nights. Oh, and yeah. I grabbed, and every kid gets a cup and 3 rubber bands, and then they turn them into like their little, they call them cup-a-lalies. Bing, 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 bing. And those are 3 instrument ideas that you don't have to touch or blow or anything, and they can take them, and it's super affordable and fun. Yeah. You're welcome. I love you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome ideas. I'm looking through the comments here because I want to see what you guys said before I start sharing my ideas. Let's see here. I'm trying to see what was the answers from what I asked. Some of you are still commenting about other things too. Yeah, Karen said live stream from your music classroom, best option here. I love that idea because I heard that someone else said that the other day too, where your kids may still not be in the school building, but you're showing up to live stream from your classroom. You're still, you're able to play the instruments when there's no students around you, and they can virtually give them a link to log in. You have a computer set up, or even your iPhone or whatever phone you have, and you're streaming yourself teaching a music lesson from your actual classroom. And then Michelle said she worked off a cart for 20 years. So that is showing you right there. It is doable. And Michelle, I would love for you to share ideas of what worked for you with organizing your cart. I have a few ideas I've typed up as well. Let's see here. Oh, Jeanette also said she taught from a cart before. You use 1 to 2 instruments per lesson. Yes. All lessons for the day include those instruments. That's a great idea. And that would honestly, if you're just using 1 or 2 instruments, easy to disinfect between classes as well. And then Jamie said, but yes, instruments aren't feasible if you have to disinfect them. We're going to talk about ways to do units in teaching without, yes, body percussion was one of the main things I was going to say, Jen. Singing lessons remotely with videos so kids can sing at home. Why are we traveling? Well, Karen, I agree with what you're saying, but I do know some teachers that have already been told they're going to be teaching on a cart. So that's just the reality of it. Hand sign the songs. Recorder, because kids don't share them. That's actually a fantastic idea. They're not sharing them. You could literally hand out a Lysol wipe if they're available in stores then for kids to disinfect their own recorders. Okay, I'm going to read the rest of these in a minute. You guys might already be saying things I'm about to say. Okay, so the first thing I want to say about school with limitations or teaching with limitations is body percussion. Someone already said it in the comments. And like I said, my story is I started at a school in the middle of the school year, no instruments. I take that back. I had 1 broken hand drum, literally no teaching resources. I had nothing. So I thought to myself, instead of feeling sorry for myself and running for the hills or out the door or whatever, I said, these kids can still learn music. Like they can. They all have a body. They all have a voice. Now, kids may not be able to use their voices this year to sing, but I'm going to teach you how you can still sing and transfer that to for them to bring that song home. So body percussion. Anything you would do on instruments, the kiddos can use their bodies. Body percussion may not be something you've done very much, and it may be something you've done a lot of. So even if you've done some body percussion activities, literally anything you would teach, like when you're thinking of a mallet instrument, obviously you can't transfer your body to a melodic instrument, but rhythm instrument wise, your body can be used to make any rhythm instrument sound, as a drum mainly. Snapping. This can be in place of the finger cymbals or rhythm sticks. This is a rhythm stick sound. You get the idea. So for singing, let's talk about that. If you are told that there is no singing at all allowed, you may be able to maybe have a discussion with your principal. One idea I have thought of that this may be a good or not be a good idea, but I'm going to throw it out. Yes, there's going to be a replay. Carissa, sorry, I saw a comment, got distracted. If you wear a face mask and you're seeing kids and you instruct them, which will be really hard because if the kids hear you sing, what are they going to want to do? Sing, right? So if they are physically in front of you and they're not supposed to sing, but you can, whether you're traveling to a classroom, whether you have half of a class in front of you, then maybe you're still singing a song. And what you do is instead of just having them sit there and stare at you awkwardly, you can say, while I sing this song, you're going to stand up and just move in your space. Elisa already shared an idea about at recess, there was a school that did the smiley faces with chalk on the sidewalk. Well, one of my ideas is tape in their classroom, teacher's classroom, or your music classroom with tape for the kids to stand 6 feet apart, or this is your circle you need to stand in with tape. That is where they stand. That is where they can move anywhere in their circle. You're singing the song, they're doing movement or body percussion to the song or following the melody with hand signs or solfege. And then you say, hide the song in your heart, remember it in here. I want you to take it home with you later and sing it. It's not going to be ideal, but that is a way for them to still sing, maybe not in front of you, but later on. Another way is if they can sing, we just don't know yet. Have them face away from each other, face a wall, which is awkward because what are you always telling Ellen? Look at me, eyes on me, right? Saying face away from me. But you can still assess them informally by walking around and listening to how they're singing and what are they sounding like. And you can still maybe not get too close, but you can still hear them singing 6 feet away. And those kids that are still a little bit shy about singing. Okay, so also, let's say you are going into the teacher's classrooms, those of you who are going to be asked to teach on a cart. The kids can drum on their desks. They can use their pencil to hit the metal part of their chair or the table or desk or whatever they're sitting at. Or, even the desk have metal or whatever it is. I guess it's metal on the bottom of the desk. They can make sounds with their desk or chair or table by playing drums that way. Movement, like I said, a lot of it'll be movement like by themselves, not touching each other. A lot of these circle dances and folk dances you do in elementary music now will have to be individual dances. They can pretend with their imaginary partner or do a circle dance, but they're standing 6 feet away and their hands are not touching, but they're just kind of like this. Okay, so on a cart, what ideas work well if you have to travel from classroom to classroom? Okay, so obviously bring teaching resources with you. Just like the beginning of the school year when you look at your schedule, and you guys know as elementary music teachers, it's never like this. 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, kindergarten. No, it's usually something like this. 2nd, 5th, kindergarten, maybe 1st grade, back to 4th, and then, it's like hops all over the place. So you're going to look at your schedule and you say, okay, 5th grade's first. This is what I need to teach this lesson. Okay. I know that 1st grade's next, so I'm going to put teaching resources I need for them next to them. A laptop or something to play music, even if it's just like an old school CD player, if that's all you can get access to. I know several teachers who are like I was, you have no resources, so you don't have a smart board. Even in the classrooms, there's no smart board. So bring just anything to play music or your phone, plug it into something, or just even play your phone, a song from your phone. Any manipulatives you need, I can't say that word, you need to teach with, instruments that you can play. You can still play a drum. You can bring something to play with, even if you don't feel comfortable with all the students touching them too. Puppets for the little kids, any books you want to be reading to the kids, they can still do movement activities to the words you're reading. You can still bring books about composers, books about the instruments, show them, do activities about the instruments of the orchestra when it's time to teach that in the school year. And then let's see, what new ideas do you have for keeping kids distance or traveling from classroom to classroom? That's just all about going over procedures again. So if they are traveling from classroom to classroom, then it's about going over procedures. Your school may already have I know some schools that do this while the kids are walking down the hallway. Maybe they're not going to want them to touch their mouth, obviously, but maybe their hands are behind their back while they walk. Maybe there is a way, your school will help you probably work that out, obviously, but where there is tape 6 feet apart and one kid moves up to I don't know. Your school will help you work that part out about getting the kids where they need to be safely. And how can you change your classroom procedures to accommodate distance learning measures? Classroom procedures. Okay, so I took some notes on that. I know what I wanted to say. One more thing about teaching on a cart. I've had some questions from other teachers about, and you guys might have these questions too. What happens if your music classroom is needing to be used by a classroom teacher? Because if the classes are divided in half and you're only seeing them, a few students at a time or whatever, where do you store your things? Well, you either bring them home, which you would have to take multiple trips, or say, hey, you have some, extra space in your classroom, and recruit different teachers, the ones you know and trust. Can I store my drums in here and just cover them up so the kids don't use them? And then the teacher's just going to have to be helpful with making sure that the kids don't mess with your stuff. So just spread them out in classrooms. Remember where you put what. It's not ideal if you don't have a storage closet, but that's a way to do it. Procedures, just adapt your expectations to fit what students need to do. For example, maybe you have tape on the floor, like I already said, a circle they need to stay in. If so, let them know that. You might find yourself this school year teaching on a cart or not returning to school for a while. It's still a good idea to think about setting up your classroom. So let's say you start out with modifications set on you for the beginning of the school year. Well, let's say they tell you we're going to completely open the school like it normal 3 months down the road. So still think of your classroom procedures and be aware of what you want them to be. And if you want to change them up from what last school year was, so they're ready to go, you're ready to tell students what you expect for when it's time. So with that said, I said a whole lot. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing about limitations, because I do like to talk, as you can tell. If you are only seeing half of a class at a time, you're going to only be seeing your students every other week instead of every week, probably, or maybe every 3 weeks. So you're going to have to just cut down on what you normally would teach. If you teach 10 songs about that are rounds, then now you're only going to be doing about 4. That's okay. Doesn't mean the quality of instruction's gone down. It doesn't mean your kids don't aren't learning music. The goal is just for them to continue learning music. And done. I'm going to go check the comments now.
I was just going to say that, as much as we might be faced with limitations, I don't know how sustainable this is really going to be. And maybe if Bob Morrison is still watching, he can provide some great insight. Mm-hmm. I don't know how sustainable these kinds of limitations are going to be. I get the feeling that schools are going to fall one way or the other. If there's any hint that there is continued viral infection in the area, they're probably just going to revert right back to online learning, especially because you're all so freaking amazing and prove that it can be done, right? Yeah. Or they might just give up and go and say, we're done with this. It's too costly. The students aren't learning. It's not effective. There's no point when the teacher is the one who's going class to class. Now, maybe if the teacher's the one who's infected, although to be fair, a lot of schools are going to be implementing temperature checks and, stay home if you feel sick and stuff like that. So that being said, keep in mind that this might be the least long one. And so spend your time mitigating this and understanding how this might look for you, but understanding also that it might end up in another way. So let's talk about this for middle school and high school. I'm going to say secondary, and the bulk of our secondary classes tend to be ensemble classes. And I know a bunch of ensemble people are like, we're out of here. This is too elementary. But you know what? You never know if it's going to be you. I was trained a middle school band teacher and ended up loving teaching elementary for many years. So let's talk about what this might look like. you are probably going to need more space. If they are going to insist that you continue to teach instruments, which again, spitting, hello, touching bows and things all over this town. So maybe you're going to need a lot more space. And ideally your school is going to have more space available to you, whether that's the gym or the cafeteria or an outside courtyard, if that works. So number one is just find opportunities to spread out. Set up your classroom procedures so that they stagger their entrance. Everybody gets clean as they come in, and then everybody gets clean as they go out. I hope that we continue to remain super clean in our classrooms. Can we all get a rah for that? I don't know about you guys. I got sick of getting sick as an elementary music teacher. All right. So the other option is, hear me out. Don't freak out. What if we just did choral for a semester while this thing's going on? I know that my instrumental students were, the stronger instrumental students also could sing. All right. So, and many band pieces, many orchestra pieces are now incorporating a lot of singing. You can use singing to turn your students into stronger musicians without having instruments, without having all of the accoutrement that comes with instruments. You just focus on that. Or maybe you focus on small group instead of large ensemble. Okay, so maybe your solution looks like groups of 10 or 15 kids in a class instead of like the 60 that I used to have in beginning orchestra. You could also turn it into the playing happens at home and all the secondary learning happens at school. So now your music appreciation, your music history, your music composition, all of that stuff, aesthetics of music, that now becomes something that happens in your classroom at school, and all the instrumental learning happens at home. All right. So there are some ideas for that, and kind of along the same thing with high school. Most of all, we just have to be compliant and accepting of the mandates that we're given, and see it as an opportunity for us to be creative within restraints. And that is a great place to be, quite honestly. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to decide. They're telling you, here's what you have to do in these constraints, and that gives you an opportunity to be creative in that space. All right. Fortunately, marching band, right? That can be nice and spread out. We hope so. I know that in our state, I'm in Colorado, they're talking about delaying the marching band season because they might end up being closed the first part of school. They are shortening show times. So where it used to be at least between 7 and 10 minutes, now it's going to be like a 3 to 5 minute show, that kind of thing. So there are some things like that. I want to see some of these comments really quick. We could be facing serious retention issues. So yes, I agree. There could be retention issues. When it comes to that though, so sorry, I'm going to read the comments so that it's in the recording. Sean, how do we go from a choir of 60 to 10? What happens to the other 50? Well, ideally they continue in music of some kind, right? Jennifer says, my challenge and fear, there are 3 teachers in my building, 1 choral, 1 band, 1 orchestra. Who gets to teach music appreciation if we move to that? I don't think you have 3 sections of music appreciation. I think you have 3 sections of music of some kind, whatever that looks like. So maybe you have one that's appreciation, one that you have is about composition, one is online music creation and music technology, and then you rotate through that. This is me totally on my soapbox, and you're welcome to send me whatever angry emails or posts that you like. But my core belief is that we teach students. And we teach students to love music. And we teach students to love music through whatever means we have. Because if they learn to love it, then they will do it with their own efficacy. They will be practicing at home. They will be singing if they want to. The point is that music is what we teach. And hopefully we get back to the fact that we can teach music through ensemble performance, because it's such a wonderful experience, because it's such a great opportunity for them to collect and collaborate and be part of this group. But if that is no longer an option, we can still teach them music and help them become musicians, so that when we can go back to teaching instruments and singing in large ensembles, we haven't lost them. Instead, look at this as an opportunity to add more sections of music in your school. You can say, I could only fit 60 kids in my orchestra class, but we could fit 120 in music composition. So look at it as an opportunity to recruit more students into music in general instead of into ensemble specific. And off my soapbox. Okay.
That was good.
I mean, you guys know I'm a band teacher. I do my community band. I miss them. They are some of my very best friends. But more than anything, if we teach them to love music, then they will stay in music. That's the point. And it needs to be student-centered, you guys. What kind of music do they want to learn? How do they want to learn it? And we just have to work within the constraints. Mike says, scheduling in a large high school. How do we break down the class size? Can't pull from the other classes for small ensembles, even if just a partial class size. How do you supervise the rest while I'm teaching the smaller group? That is a really good question. And the scheduling thing is going to come down to whoever does the scheduling at your school. If you can come up with a way that maybe they aren't with you for a full 50-minute period, maybe you take this group for 10, this group for 10, that group for 10. Maybe you focus more on individual practice at home and then do different stuff at school. Like I said, let me think if there's any. I'm going to continue to stew on that one and see if I can come up with any other ideas. Honestly, I did solo and ensemble every year with my students, and I would give them an assignment as a small group, and I would say, you guys are over here. And I would, instead of teaching focused, intense on one small group, I would rotate throughout the room and check in on those groups. And also, don't underestimate the power of students assessing and helping each other either, and working collaboratively to assess each other. Let's see what else we got in the comments here. Melissa says, use the auditorium, 10 kids on stage and spaced out singing their sectionals. Yeah. Rose says, my school is talking about having half kid A days and half kid B days. Yep, that's an option as well. Maria is asking, will this chat be transcribed? Yes, I can download the chat and add it into the email that you'll get after this as well. Make sure that you keep adding your comments into our little collaborative document so you don't miss anything as well, and that will go out in the email. Mike says, I'm actually more okay with teaching the online portion. Whatever kind of in-class small group thing is what I'm wondering on. You're going to have to go with the mandates that your school is giving. And if they say 10 students per class at a time, then maybe you rotate which students get that 10-person class time with you throughout the week. And so maybe instead of seeing 60 kids at one time, you're seeing 60 kids over the course of a week. The schedules are going to be so crazy like that you're going to have to rely on a lot of the admin to help guide you and just provide them with ideas for how to guide you. You could say, if you're going to do it that way, I'd still love to have kids play instruments. And here's how that could work. Maybe they come for 30 minutes with me instead of 60. All right, let me think if there's anything else. Grading. What about grading, Rhonda? I would love to hear more about your question. Karen says, what about lip sync competitions? Yeah. And you know what? You might be surprised turning your instrumentalists into little singers. They can still practice their instrument at home. It really does build musicianship. That's why we start little kids with singing, right?
Yeah. I was going to say too, when I was in band, I played clarinet all through college, and even in college band, we would sing. We would sing, and I remember being in band like, why are we singing? This is an instrument. But then after I went through college as a music education major, it made total sense. Sing the melody first, then you transfer into instruments. So
and a lot of people are saying that they would rather continue teaching virtually than try to jump through a million unreasonable hoops. I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
I think that it's called the safety. It's like the pageantry of safety. It's like anyway, whatever. The point is we have to be compliant. But if you go to your principal and you say, look, I would feel more comfortable continuing to teach virtually. I feel like I'm engaging my students really well. I feel like I can see their progress really well. They're really engaging with me. We have relaxed conversations alongside of our more structured time. then why not offer that as an option? They might just take you up on that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's, I want to skip this section because it's so much like the last section.
Yeah,
I want
we
to get right.
covered a lot of those.
We have covered a lot of this. So this is scenario 3. You're welcome to insert additional ideas into that collaborative document, like I said. But it basically goes through some of these same questions. If school opens with some classes in person, so maybe you have, you're allowed to teach 2 ensemble classes a week, right? Or maybe just 10 kids a day. And the rest of the time they're at home. Mm-hmm. So that means you can now utilize that class time to rotate out some and use that class time as an assessment time. Wouldn't you say, Jessica?
Yeah, because I feel like that's one of the main things that's a struggle right now for music teachers, whether you're K through 12, is you're not seeing your students. Even if you are participating in a call like this, even any virtual, whatever platform you're using, you could have a class size of like 25 kids and maybe 2 of them show up. So, and a lot of you are being asked to assess your students, and all you've done is sent home paper packets. Well, I think, like you said, it's a great idea, because if you're seeing them in person, that might be your chance to say, all right, kids, you remember the stuff I sent home or the things I posted? Let's go ahead and go over that together. And you're going to have some deer in the headlight looks like you have when you're teaching in person all the time anyway. So
I was supposed to practice what?
I know. Wait, I didn't get that email.
Which section of the music are we doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you really got to leverage the time that you do have with your students, whether that's face-to-face online, whether that's casual chit-chat online. I keep bringing that up because honestly, that is the best thing that my daughter's high school band director has done, is he'll say from 1 to 2 is band time. Everybody log in and they don't do music stuff. They just talk about whatever, and they feel so connected to each other. And you know what? She never stops practicing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But to be fair, she is like an all-state tuba player. So, yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah. All right. So there are some ideas, and please continue sharing. You guys are sharing so much incredible stuff with each other. Mm-hmm. This is turning out to be exactly how I envisioned it, by the way. Yeah. All right. So let's look at scenario 4. What if they say, we are not going back to school for a year? We're not going to open up until there's a injection. Help me out here. It's called a vaccine. Thank you. I was like, working on a doctorate, you guys. That's how smart I am.
Well, it's the end of the day. Our brains are like,
oh my goodness. And I missed my second nap of the day. But truly, this might be the case. Thank you, Jennifer. She's helping me out. Vaccine. Thank you. I love you guys. Okay. So what if they say we're not going to open school until there is a vaccine? So we still need to implement some of these things. Mm-hmm. So let's talk really quickly. You've been doing it for a while. You've been teaching online. You've been engaging them in these ways. Everybody share what's one activity that you've done with your students that they have loved? What's one activity that you've done with your students that they have totally loved? Now, there was a question in the Facebook group. In case you aren't in the Facebook group, you should be. The Music Educators Creating Online Learning. So somebody said that they've created all these really fun activities and they had gone through them all and they didn't know what to do next because they were tapped out of ideas. And I said, your best idea is to review, go back and repeat those things. If your students loved them and you had 12 things, that's 12 things you get to do again that you know that they love.
Well, sorry. I was going to say,
go ahead.
Because each time you review a song, you can always do different things to it too. You can always change it up. You can always add stuff to it.
This time we're going to do it with a body percussion beat. Yep. Okay. So everybody join me. We're going to do it together. Okay. Now what's another way that we can do it? Can we do it with tapping on our forehead? Can we do it with rubbing our shoulder? Yeah. There's so many different options. Where was I? Oh, right. Everybody's sharing their best ideas. Let's read some of these best ideas. Jessica,
so much coming in. Okay. Let me scroll down a little bit. Let's see.
Jenny says Star Wars bracket where they voted on the favorite. Did you do favorite characters or favorite songs from the start, or favorite themes? I mean, I'm kind of a Princess Leia theme fan because I play French horn. Just gonna throw it out there.
Nashira asked, kind of a little bit down, what recommendations do people have to set up online classrooms and platforms for elementary general music? Getting extremely overwhelmed by engaging in each of our classroom teachers' different online classes. Well, you and I talked about this today. There's so many different options, and my best idea for anybody is you learn best. Don't you feel like you guys just getting in there and just being forced to do this is you just learn by just doing it. So I would just, yes, get recommendations, but I would just suggest you playing around with, there's so much out there, but just say, okay, I'm going to try Google Classroom and I'm going to try to set up my own. I kind of don't like that. Let me go over here and try Loom, or let me go over here and try Canvas, or, oh, I actually like that one. Okay, now how can I play with the features? I mean, Elisa, is that what you would agree with? Just kind of getting in there and doing it and
getting in there and trying it out.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the one that I have found, and I've used many website builders, you guys, I own 20 URLs right now. It's ridiculous. So Google Sites, guys, it's free. It uses everything that you need. I believe you can duplicate. Steve Giddings, if you don't know Steve Giddings, you should. You absolutely should. He has so many wonderful practical resources. He just published a book called Creative Musicking, and you should all go out and buy it right now. And if Daphne's still on with us, she should post a link to Steve Giddings' new book. Okay. That being said, he just posted in the Music Educators Creating Online Learning group about his method of doing Google Sites for his online classroom. I've done that as well. Because I own so many websites, I had my classroom website on WordPress, and it was just my name, elisajansen.com. And so they all knew elisajansen.com is where we go, and then /HFCS. And I just had a different page from each for each grade. Okay. So if you don't have permissions for Google Sites, I know that when I was teaching in a different state, Utah, y'all, our district provided us a web builder to build our own websites on. So, modern era, you should have a website. Ask your district administrator or your principal and say, I really would love to have a website. What is available to me that the students can access? Okay. Any other ideas on that?
Well, I just wanted to say, I was looking at the notes I took today, and one thing I've been seeing a lot of is just overwhelm with, okay, let me say this. You're going to be you still. So think about who you were in your classroom. You may or may not have already known about a lot of technology. You may have just been, different teaching methods, different ways you like to teach. Some like a lot of technology, some don't like very much at all. So you're going to see some of these teachers doing so much technology. There's no right or wrong way. It's just some of them are just really technology savvy, you know what I'm trying to say. And you're going to see some of them doing so many things, and you're like, how are they doing that? And it's okay if you don't know how. You still get to be you, whether you're in your classroom or teaching virtually. So I want you to remember that at the forefront. Like Elisa said earlier, the goal is for your students to learn music. And so, yes, there's so many amazing ideas, and I'm seeing them here. I've written them all down too, but I'm seeing all the same ones I have jotted down in the comments. But just take this summer to explore the different ideas and figure out what works for you. Like she said, talk to every school has like a school tech person. Sometimes it's the school secretary, and ask them, can you help me just set up something simple, just something I can post songs on where I can even just direct the kids to come to. Just leave it simple. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated unless you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share, we're kind of winding down here. Stay with us though, because I have a goodie. Several. So this is the website for the Society for Online Music Education, and we are adding more and more ways to support your teaching and learning online. Again, this is not anything paid. Membership is totally free. You just enter your information, you get added to the newsletter, and we send you goodies out as well. Anne Marie is asking, can we save the chat? Yes, we'll save the chat for you. Okay. So if you go to this website, sfome.org, and you click on resources and lesson plan library, I've been having people send me their sort of collaborative library stuff, and you can access it through this. I'm trying to think if there's another one that we had. So if you have a resource that you love that would fit under, lesson plans, curated lesson plans, you can submit that right on that page as well, and we'll add it to the list. So by working together, we'll be able to create a whole robust list of lesson plan libraries that are already in existence, and you should be able to get through those. NAFME session last week said, I'm sorry, I said NAFME. Let me say it right. NAFME. Change the how, not the what. Exactly. You are music teachers. We are some of the most brilliant, adaptable, relevant, child-centered, student-centered teachers that you'll ever meet. I truly, truly believe that. That is why I serve the music educator community, not just because that I'm a part of it. And what we teach is students, and we teach students music. And if we can teach them to love music in any way that they get it, then they will continue to love music the rest of their lives. And they will do it on their own, with their own motivation, with their own efficacy. And they will then become our biggest advocates as well, because we would have made a big difference in their lives. So truly embrace the fact that we have this grand privilege as music teachers to emotionally educate our students through this wonderful medium of music. Testify. Can I get a testify? Awesome. Oh, I clicked a link and it took me away. Okay, let's see where we are here. Okay, online learning continuing. Mm-hmm. Keep your kids playing, keep them making music, keep them sharing, and keep it simple. Can we just talk about that really quick? Jessica, this is your forte, is keeping it simple.
I was reading the comments.
I know, it's such good stuff.
Someone just mentioned, Joanne mentioned she has a new puppy. I do too. We just got a golden doodle, and he's a hot mess and eats everybody's shoes, but we love him. Sorry.
That's amazing.
Keeping it simple. Yeah. So just like I said earlier, being you, just trust that. One thing I've heard a lot of too is like, well, I don't see my students, or what if I'm not valued as a music educator because, you were already feeling like what you do is not valued sometimes because you're the music teacher. And so I've heard a lot of teachers saying they're either at fear of losing their jobs in general, having their position cut, or they're also in fear of people being like, oh, well, parents can just do music at home, so what's the point anymore? That's the furthest thing from the truth, because I can't speak about job situations because that's up to your school district, but about the not thinking your job is someone else can just do your job. My sister is the ESOL coordinator at her school. She's been a 3rd and 4th grade teacher. And let me tell you right now, she's barely seeing kiddos show up live anymore. She feels like the same way. Like, is my job even valued? Do they care? Do the kid, every teacher, or whether you teach music or anything else, is feeling the overwhelm. So ways to keep it simple, just be you. Focus on teaching music. I love the simple ideas of just like, I asked my kids to record anything and send it to me. Yes. Have a virtual talent show. Say, come and let's just sing a song together. What are your favorite songs? Tell me what you've been listening to lately. Oh, let's sing that together. Have ideas from your students. Sometimes they can be your best teachers. So it's going to just realize it's going to look different than you're used to planning and used to teaching. And that's okay. I also do fully believe that the things you've been learning right now, you've just been like, kind of like I said, it's like you've been in a blender and you're like, just gone in there as quick as you could to learn how to do things. Well, you're going to be able to like take a break, mentally decompress, and then go, okay, let me process what just happened. And now let me also process how I can carry what I just learned back into my teaching situation, whatever it might look like in the fall, because you have learned a heck of a lot and you should be super, super proud of yourself for all that you have already accomplished the rest of this school year. And you've learned new skills that you'll be able to bring with you back into your classroom. I mean, I think that's amazing.
It is. It is super, super amazing. So Mary asked, how do you create a virtual classroom? So the question is, which kind of virtual classroom? Because there's this new, really, really awesome thing that that people are showing that's like them as a little Bitmoji, and then they have all the different, you've seen these, Jessica, right?
Yeah.
They're super cute. So here's the easy, free-ish way to do it, okay? Is you start with a Google slide, because it's easy to manipulate the objects on there. You can take a picture of your actual classroom, or just, download a picture. I use canva.com for like 95% of my design, and that I get free pictures on there. You can get everything you need. I'm going to say that with quotations, most of what you need, canva.com, and it's free. Right? You use Canva too, don't you?
Oh my gosh, it's my best friend.
I love it so much. Canva. Heart the Canva. Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, you get a picture of the classroom, and then you decide what elements you want in the classroom. And then you just find pictures or pick art of those elements. You place them on top of your little classroom. And then here's the magic, is you create a hyperlink on each of those things. So if you have a picture of boom whackers on there, then you create a link, and you do that by, I think you can do it by, I always use the short code Control K, or if you're on a Mac, it's that swirly one, K. But that's the short code to pop it open to embed a URL. Okay, so you have your little picture of your boom whacker, you highlight it, you Control K, and then you put a URL for a boom whacker video, right? Or a boom whacker play along, that kind of thing. Command K, thank you, Daphne. I'm on my non-MacBook right now. I only have 4 computers here today. So that's kind of how that works. You just decide on the elements and what you want them to link to, and that's one way to create that. Now, as far as like a website virtual classroom, this goes back to keeping it simple. So here's my big tip. You have access to this enormous wealth of resources, whether it's all of these nonprofits that are posting all of these COVID-19 teaching resources, right? Everybody has a page like that now, except for SFOME, because that's everything that we do. So I digress. Where was I? I was on virtual classroom. Thank you. So make a list of everything that you need or want, and then go find the resources for it. So instead of getting overwhelmed going, here's 400 activities that I can do with my middle school choir kids, go, what do I want my middle school choir kids to learn? How can I assess that they've learned it? And then find the activities. This is a big tip from your instructional designer friend. This is an instructional design model called backwards design, okay? Now you feel super, super smart, right? So what is it that you want them to know? How will you know that they know it? And then what materials do you need, materials and activities, to teach them to get that new skill, okay? So that's how you can keep it really simple, know what it is you're looking for, and then find only those resources. I never browsed for resources. I always went after what I specifically wanted to teach, and then found the resources for that, because they're definitely out there.
Yep, that's exactly what I did.
All right. Do you have anything else?
I actually just had something come to mind. Just one more thing. Someone posted about kids interacting with their families and teaching songs to their families at home. And I actually remembered
love that.
I wanted to mention that. I don't even remember which section, but I did want to touch on that, because whether your students are kindergarten through 12th grade, like you said, your daughter's playing tuba, there's kids singing songs. So even if you've sent home paper packets and you're like, how do I know if they're participating in any of this stuff? Well, you may not, but you need to trust that what you have sent home for your kids to do, whether it's sing the song with your families or make an instrument at home, or why don't you do this dance? I've even seen people posting in the comments, but I've seen this as well, have little kids, the stuffed animals, have them do a little dance with their animals or a little game. I mean, it's just, there's so many ideas that kids can do at home. And what's awesome about this, I always say, think about the positive. For music advocacy, how much music are the kids bringing home to their parents that because of you providing it, they're advocating for music by their parents engaged in music with them. And then the parents are going to say, do you know how much music my child has learned this year? Because now they're home every day with them. They get it.
if you teach them to love music, that is the key. because then they will express that in every part of their being. You can't hold them back. So that being said, I run this event, the International Music Education Summit. Jessica's going to be presenting on how to plan for next school year, actually. Steve Giddings is going to be on there. Like I said, 5 or 6 different sessions on SEL, including the Narwhals and Waterfalls duo, Paige Bell and Adrian Palmer. They're amazing. They're going to teach you some great songs. We have 85 sessions over 3 days. It's all webinar based. It always has been, guys. That's why I'm a pseudo expert in this, because I've been doing this for years. And we record everything and make it available to you for the next year so that you can tap into those resources whenever you need them. I only do this to help pay a few bills for my family of 5. So I want to give you guys this discount code. If you do decide that you want to join us for the International Music Education Summit, then you're collaborating with people all over the world. I mean, literally, we just had somebody from Egypt sign up. It's amazing. Use this code and you're going to get a big discount as well. And then Jessica's is thedomesticmusician.com. And then, I'm sorry, I meant to do that hyperlink and I just
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah. Domestic Musician is Jessica. And then I put her IMES thing on there as well. Mm-hmm. So my final call to action is to reach out, collaborate with each other, be part of these extremely positive Facebook groups. Please reach out to us as resources. We genuinely just do this because we care. Yep. And it might be Music Ed Mentor 20, you guys. Use code podcast. That one for sure works. Or, just send me like an email and be like, "Dear Elisa, you are amazing. Stroke your ego, stroke your ego. Give me a coupon code." Boom, done. Okay. Let me think if there's anything else. Just keep the faith, you guys. Keep teaching on and keep helping each other and caring about each other. And you're so welcome. Any final words, Jessica?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I know you guys are exhausted. At the end of the day, you are just mentally worn out. Don't forget to take care of yourselves. Whatever that looks like for you, just, self-care is important. You can't pour from an empty cup, whether it's in person or online, or whatever it might look like for you. But yeah, just keep taking care of yourself. And after the school year ends, take a week off to really just relax, more than a week. Okay. Then start processing the fall.
You need.
Yes, because I know I'm that way. I have a hard time taking breaks. I'm like, I should take a day off. Wait, I need to do this. But it's so important. Shut that laptop down, take the break you need, then come back and start planning for the fall when it's time. But finish the school year off strong first. Okay. You guys got it.
You guys are amazing. You're so welcome. We just really genuinely care about you and want to help you out. So please reach out, stay well, and have fun teaching music.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your night.
I realize we covered a lot in this episode, this special audio of the work session edition. Thank you for sticking it out. You will find a copy of the chat log from the webinar, as well as the video of the work session itself, the collaborative forms, and form results that we talk about in this recording. They are available on the Smart Music blog. Go to smartmusic.com/blog and search for episode 74. You will also find tons of great resources for planning your school year on the Smart Music blog and on Facebook in the Music Educators Creating Online Learning group. Join more than 42,000 members in this collaborative effort to support the teaching and learning of music online. Remember to join us for the International Music Education Summit, where Jessica Peresta will be giving a full hour-long intensive on planning for next school year. Save 20% on your registration by using code PODCAST at checkout. A big thank you again to Smart Music for their support of this podcast, and most of all for their support of music educators around the world who are working together to create meaningful online music experiences for their students. Thank you for spending this time with me, for doing this important work that you do. Stay well, do your best, and be gentle with yourself. And most of all, keep teaching on.